It's been a long time that I wanted to create this app, and this time has come. And there's nothing more easier than creating an app with Next.js 13 and Supabase. The application that we are going to create together is about migraines. What I want is an application where I can save all the events, all the crises that I got when I got headaches. And I would like to have some kind of calendar exactly like in GitHub when you are committing and contributing to a project. Here's a global overview of the whole project. I got a lot of screens, I got pop-ups, I got alerts, I got elements, and I also got a big list of all the elements, the buttons, etc, etc. I don't got time to make all of these screens. I want to start with a basic feature, and this basic feature would be the landing page, sign up, and the app itself. So let's have a look on the landing page, which will be actually the first place where people are going to arrive. They're going to arrive here, there will be an email, and they will be able to sign up and create an account. When it will be done, they will arrive here and they will have their name, they will have up here an avatar with a night mode, and we will get an invitation to do a calendar. So I'm not really sure if we're gonna make a calendar this way or actually we are going to make the calendar immediately. So when we will have a calendar created, it will look a bit like this. Here it really reminds you GitHub, and on GitHub you have this heat map. So we'll have to find a library that is doing this under Next.js. I'm not very worried about that. And when we will click on new event or share, we will get a kind of pop-up. So I don't know if it's going to be a pop-up or a page yet. And on this pop-up, I will be able to add a new event. So there will be a form, a full form, about adding a new, actually a new crisis, a new migraine crisis in my heat map up there. And maybe later I will work on the share component that we got in here. What I'm going to do now is to init my Next.js application. So here I'm going to just copy paste here npx create next app latest experimental app, and I'm going to get back to my VS Code and I'm going to install this. Once it's installed, I got my project, I got my app folder with the API, I got everything. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to type yarn dev and I'm going to open this into my browser. All right, my app is running very well. What I'm going to do is to go on Vercel, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go on Vercel and immediately I'm going to add a new project. So I'm going to click here and click on add a new project. Right, this is done. I got my project online. I'm going to be able to deploy immediately from my Next.js application the project to Vercel. So I'm going to get back and I'm going to give you a tip. I'm going to create a new file called makefile here, and this makefile will help me to immediately commit by typing all the commands. So here I'm just going to put commit as a message by default, git push origin here we are. And now when I stop, and I type make gt and I type enter, it's going to look at this and it's going to add all these commands and commit automatically. Okay, so now I'm going to get back to the application and I'm going to clean a little bit. So here I got a page module that I don't want. I don't want the CSS also. I'm going to look at the page.tx itself. I'm just going to return a div to start, and it's going to be a div that says hello. I'm going to remove all of this also. I just want to have an empty home, and I'm going to go on layouts, and on layout, here we are. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to install Sass immediately, and I'm going to change my global here by a global.scss. Here we are. And here I'm going to import global.scss because I want to use global.scss. I'm going to remove this page, and I'm going to type yarn dev again, and back in the application. Here we are, we've got this for now, so we are good. To go way faster, I'm going to use Material UI for this project. So I'm going to go to get started and I'm going to look at the installation, and I got a lot of things to install here. So I'm going to get back to my application and I'm going to stop my server and I'm going to install Material UI. Another library that I'm going to install, it's Day.js. It will help me to deal with the time, and also I'm going to install Numeral.js. So Numeral.js will help me to deal with formatting the numbers. I have been looking for a heat map. So here we've got a React calendar heat map. Here we are. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to install this React calendar also. When it's done, take a look at this package.json. So we've got emotion React, emotion style, MUI lab, MUI material, of course, style engine, the date picker, because I will need a date picker. I've installed some types. I've installed Day.js, ESLint, Next, React, my calendar, Sass, and style component also. And as a dev dependencies, I got the type for the React calendar heatmap. So what we can do now immediately is to start building the app. Okay, so we're gonna start by the layout because I want to apply some elements in here. So at first, what I'm gonna do, I'm going to say, hey, I want to use the client on the layout. Here we are. And once I get this, I can let the metadata for now, okay? But what I want to do at first a light or dark mode, so I can use that with material UI. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a const isDark, okay, and set isDark, okay, here. So I'm going to put set isDark this way, here we are, and it's going to be a user state. So I need to import actually the user state and react with user state. So I'm going to go up here, and at first we get this. All right, so it's going to be on false by default, okay? And I will have also a function called switch theme, and with switch theme, here we are, we've got this, we've got already set isDark, which is here. I made a mistake. Okay, so this function will help me to switch if we are on dark mode or not. But what I need to do is to create actually a theme. There are several themes, light or dark. So what I'm going to do in here, I'm going to create a new folder which will be called theme, and inside there will be a theme.ts. All right. So in here, exactly the same. I'm going to use client, okay, and then I'm going to import from material UI, material styles. So here I'm going to type material, here we are, /styles. I'm going to import what? Create theme, okay? The method that helps us to create some themes. And here I'm going to create two different themes. So there will be dark themes, okay, with my create theme here, and there will be a light one, okay? So I got a light theme. Inside the first one, I need to put an object, and here I need to call my palette object, and here it will be mode dark, all right? And then after this, it's going to be for the color. So here I got a color, me personally, which will be primary, main, and here we are. For the light theme, it's going to be exactly the same, so I'm going to just do this as a beginning. Later I will come back to add more colors. So now I've got this, I can come back to my layout, and I can import those two themes that we've got in here. Okay, so now we've got this, we need also to import from Material UI, theme provider, and CSS baseline. This theme provider is going to wrap our body. So here I'm going to type theme provider here. So I'm going to just close it this way, exactly. And we are going to put the body inside of it. And this is where I'm going to say, hey, for the theme, if it's dark, okay, it's going to be the dark theme. Otherwise, it's going to be the light theme. What I need to do also is to inject this component CSS baseline that we've got in here, and we should be good. Later, I would add a date picker. So here, I'm going just to import this localization provider coming from the date picker package of MUI, and I need to wrap actually my body also inside of it. So here I'm going to open this, and I got my localization provider that will be here, but it needs an argument, and to work it needs Day.js because it needs to format every date. So here I got to put date adapter, and here I need to inject the adapter of Day.js, and fortunately we've got it, okay? So we've got it from adapter Day.js coming from the same package. So I'm putting it here for you to understand, and we can put the adapter Day.js. All right, We should be good. So here we are just watching all the children. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a components folder. And in this component folder, I'm going to create my first component, which will be header.tsx. And I'm going to import this component here. So simply, it's going to come from, actually import header from, and we've got it here on /component/header.tsx. Here we are. So I think I can remove the tsx. This header will be on top of children for the moment. So here I'm going to put my header here, and here we are. Now I need to write a header that looks exactly like I have inside my Adobe XD template. So I'm going to work a little bit on this, and I'm going to show you just right after. All right, we should be good. So let's look at it. We've got a quick header with my logo, and here we've got the avatar component coming from MUI. And when we click on here, it's supposed to switch. It's not working yet. I'm going to show you after just how I did. But let's have a look. So I got a header, which is really easy with a switch stem that I didn't pass yet, but I'm going to pass it after. I got the path name, I got a router, and I got a grid. Okay, this grid element is coming from MUI, and it's helping me to create actually containers and rows, etc., etc. So I got a form label control, and I got an avatar component with right now just a letter. I just put an H, but it could be a G. And when we click on it, we go to a page that doesn't exist, which is profile. Here it's really easy to build. You just import your elements from Material UI and you should be fine. Now I need to come back into into my layout. And what I want to do, I want to pass the switch theme method that we have. So let's get back, let's look at it. Remember here I'm passing the function as a prop. So I need to pass switch theme. So I'm going to push that, and here we should be good. So here it seems that there is an error, but it's just that I need to reload. We've got the header. So when I get back, I got this, and when I click, here we are, we can switch. Okay, this is really good. This is working. We are really happy. We have our app and we can switch. Right now we've got night mode here. I should switch the value. I'm going to do it later maybe. So now I would like to create this landing page. So the best thing I would do, in my opinion, is to create a component that will have the whole landing page, okay? So I'm going to do it right away. It will be fast. All right, we've got our landing page. Let me show you quickly how I did. It's really easy. It's always the same. I'm importing the components coming from MUI, and I'm using grid, and I'm creating a grid, and I'm putting my text, and sometimes I'm putting some style, and I'm putting all the components that I need. Nothing is really working for now, but we're going to come back to it. And here's the result. We've got my image, we've got my input with my sign up button and everything that is ready. The only problem that we got here is that actually here we see that we've got hello, which is coming from the main page. And remember, what we have here is that we don't get any authentication. If I'm coming back to my layout.tsx, I got my children and I just put my landing down there. So my application is really simple. I just need to know if I'm logged in or not. If I'm logged in, I can access to all pages. If I'm not, I should access only to landing pages. So in my case, in this case, what I can do is just to say, hey, am I logged in or not? So for now, we don't got any system that helps us to say that. But I can make is logged in, and I can make here set is logged in. Okay, it's really, really basic what I'm doing. There are other ways to do it, but I'm just doing it this way. So we are not logged in. So if we are not logged in, what we want to show is the landing component. Otherwise, we're going to show the children. So I can remove this. And when I get back, here we are locked on this landing component. And this is what I want for now. I just want to have this. So right now we've got our landing page because we are not logged in. Otherwise, we would get the children. So if I turn my is logged in to true and I get back, I'm supposed to arrive on the main page, which is actually the only page that I got into my app, which is here, the page.tsx. So what can we do now is to work on the page.tsx. If you remember well, on my Adobe XD, I got here the header, And I got this user header, and then I got the calendar. So what we could do is to actually create two parts on our grid, and those two parts would be very easy to do. So I'm going to get back here, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to open a container here, and here we are. We've got a container at first, so I will have to import the container from Material UI. Here we are, and then I would have to get two grid. Okay, so I will have one grid, and then I would have a second grid. Okay, so we need to import the grid also, and here we are. So now I've got the two elements. Here I would have a user header that I'm going to create, and here I would have the calendar, all right? So I'm going to get back, I'm going to update, and here we see that I got an error. So I need to import actually React, and I'm going to import a user state as an element also, and I'm going to put it, of course, on use client. Okay, so I'm going to put use client. I'm not going to use user state now, but here we are. So we've got two parts. I need to build those two parts, and to do that, at first I'm going to create a component in a folder, and this folder would be a folder user, because as a user component I will have several parts of this component. So here I will have a specific header, another header, but just for the user. So I'm going to build this header, and I'm going to import it after into my page. All right, for now I got this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to import actually the user header, okay, coming from here we are, and I'm going to put my user header in here. So it's going to be user header, here we are. And when I get back to my app, I got something that looks a bit like this, okay? So I need to zoom, but we see that we've got the avatar. We're supposed to have a button. I'm not going to put it right now. I've got here my big avatar, my name, and my email address. So for the age, maybe we will deal with that later, but for now, I'm just going to put this. Okay, so we've got this here. We've got the user header, which is a component coming from the components folder with user header. Now I'm going to work on the calendar, and this is maybe the most tricky part, because we want our calendar to be at the same time the same component coming from the library we installed, but also we want to customize it a little bit. So in component, I'm going to create a new file called calendar.ts6, and here we are. So let's work really on this. So I'm going to get back here, and I'm going to use the calendar this way, okay? And here we are, and we are going to return at first the calendar coming from the library. So I've been on the documentation, and what I need to do is just to import this calendar heatmap with the CSS, okay? It's the library that is going to do the job for me. So here I'm going to use the client this way, here we are. And now I want to return my calendar heatmap. So here, what is easy to do is to call the calendar itself, okay? So I can call the calendar heatmap this way, okay? But to leave our calendar need some data. At first, it needs a start date. So this start date, it's supposed to be a specific date. And for that, I will need to import Next.js, and this is why we've installed Next.js. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new variable that here is not going to be dynamic, but anyway, it's going to call Next.js. And in Next.js, I'm going to subtract, because I want my calendar to start a year ago. So I'm going to just use a subtract, with 365 days before. And I want to format this to the format waited for the calendar heatmap. So this format is just a specific format date, really simple. And here we are. So we've got our yearly start date, so I can put this. And what I need also here, it's values, okay? So as values here, it's waiting for an array or something here, and we're supposed to have our calendar. So back in here, I can import my calendar coming from where? From my components. I can just put my calendar this way, and it will live by itself. Right, here we are. We've got the calendar this way, and there's a lot of stuff to do to customize it. So I'm going to get back, and what I want to do, I want to build something around the calendar, okay? I don't want him to be this way. So I'm going to get back and look at the calendar that I want to create. Actually, I would like to have a button, so I'm going to add a header first with a title, and then a button new event, and maybe I'm going to put the footer, we will see at first. And then in here, I would like to just customize a little bit the calendar itself, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to target some CSS of this element, and I'm going to try to improve it. Also, what I want to do, because we are on TypeScript, I would like to have a folder types, and inside types, I'm going to create an index.d.ts, or d.ts is working also. And I would like to define an interface, okay, for my events. So here I would have this interface, which will be here, and I would inject this interface to the event. Let's have a look to this calendar that I just coded. It's really easy again. What I did is that I created a grid around my calendar with the H2, a button which will click set open to open my model, which doesn't exist yet. And here on the calendar itself, I've added the start date, the show weekdays label, that's what I want to do. And also I've worked on class for value. So it's the color that I'm going to inject into my calendar. Right now I'm missing two things that I didn't create on my layout. On my page, sorry. So I need to get back to the main page here. And on my calendar here, I'm supposed to inject some elements. So those elements would be the event and a function setOpen that I didn't create it yet. Those events will be the list of the event coming from Supabase, coming from the actual user. So what I need to do here is to import my type event, all right? So this interface event should come from my types. All right, so I'm going to put events here. And what I want to do, I want to define actually the model. So here it's going to be the events with a set events function, all right, with a user state. And this is where I should work on my TypeScript. So here this user state will be this way. And here I would have an array. And in this array, I would have a type of what? A type event, the type we created before. All right, we've got this, and here it's supposed to be an array. So now what I can do, guys, is just to push these events inside my events here. So later here in the page, I will be able to fetch the current user data, all right? So I got this as an event, but what I want to do, I would like to have a form. So remember, it was supposed to be a model. When we get back here, we've got a model with a gray background. I finally changed my mind. I think it would be better to get some kind of form. So let's get back. Here we've got what we did until now. So here it's the calendar I've been working on. And when I click on new, I just want to have a form, okay? So I want to hide this and show the form and click and then emit the event. So what we need to create is getting back here on component and create a form.tsx. Why I don't create a folder calendar and I put my form.tsx inside? Just because here for this application, it's a very simple app. And the only form that I will have is to push events to a calendar. So I don't necessarily need to put all of this into folders. I will just have this like this, so it will be faster. All right, so this form, it will come here next to calendar, all right? So what I would do actually at first is just to import this form, okay? And to display it just under here. But the thing is that, remember, on my calendar, I have this function setOpen that I didn't create it yet. And when I will click on a new event, it will put setOpen on true. So I need to get back here and to create actually a setOpen or a open. So here I'm going to put open and setOpen, which would be what? A use state of what? Of false by default. And what I want to do here is to show the calendar only if not open. All right? And it will be the opposite for this one. So to make you the demonstration and for you to understand, that's what I want to do. I don't want to pass, by the way, the events to the form. I just want to let it this way. All right, I got a function setEvents. So I know that I want to push setEvents to the form already. And here I pass the event. And for both of them, I will have the same function. So for the form, I didn't write it yet, but I will have here a setOpen function that will be passed. So I can put for both of them setOpen this way. All right, we are back. And if I click on new, we've got the form, but right now we don't got any button to come back. But it is working. We switch between the form and the calendar. Okay, this is the most complicated part of this course about making a UI with Next.js 13 and especially making a front-end application with forms. Forms are always the longest stuff to create. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm just going to create it, focus on it. And after that, I'm going to show you what I did. Because if I start thinking about making the form, then coding it, we could spend an hour and a half on it. And this is not necessarily the point of this course. So let me do it. I'm going to explain you to it right away after it. If I click on new, look at what I created. An entire form with way more information in here. And if I click on cancel here, it's going to go back. Let's look at this big component together. So at first, I've imported Next.js and I have also created a configuration file. This config file got some data. It's like a JSON. I just put it at the root of my app for now. Maybe I'm going to move it. I don't know yet. And there are symptoms for migraine. There are location for where you have this headache. Then you've got some medication. This config file helped me to lower the code size of this file. I've imported, of course, React, user state, use effect, all the component coming from MUI that I needed, the time picker and my event type with the loading. So I'm going just to deconstruct all of this. At first, I created a props, set event and set open. That is a React dispatch type, okay, with the event and the array. And let's look a bit at how the UI is looking like. So we've got down here a card. So I put inside a card, the card content, and we've got grids. And all those grids are actually a specific element on the form. So first it's going to be about the date, then it's going to be about the duration, evaluating the pain, the symptoms, the location, and the medication, all right? So in all of them, I have built all of this to actually loop through the symptoms and just create a label for it. So 240 lines, it's a lot. It's a lot of code. It was a long time working on this, but at least I got something that is working. What's happening in here is that, here I'm just console logging the event, but whatever. When I click on save event, okay, I'm just here, what I will do later is to send to Supabase the event. Okay, so this is where I'm going to send the event. But at first, what I'm doing here is that I'm emitting the event. So I'm emitting the event to what? To the set event function. If I come back to the parent page, I got the set event here. So from the form, I'm emitting the event in this array. Something a bit complex is that I created a function called handle change to handle actually every key of every event, because my event is here and you already know the type event because we created it before here, okay? So what's happening here is that I'm just adding the change here of every event that I got, and I'm just merging the event with the key event. Back in the app, let's try to get a time and a date. Let's say that it's going to be long like this. I'm going to put some data here. Here we are. I'm going to put this and I'm going to click on save. And look at this. It is working. We've got our first event in our calendar. Okay, it's local, but here it is working. So we succeed to build the entire application and it is working. Now what we need to do is to plug it to Supabase, create the authentication system, then to create the event table. It's going to be really, really simple, but let's do it together now. We will see that we can plug this application to Supabase really fast. All right, I have created my Supabase project, and right away, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the API docs with the introduction that I got here. And here I got some code that I'm going to use, and I'm going to install Supabase. So I'm going to get back to my app. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to remove this, and I'm just going to install Supabase. And when I get back here, I can copy paste all of this. And at the base of my my application and I can create a supabase.js file, for instance. And here we've got our create client here. I need to create another file with the Supabase key, and I need to get my key directly from where? From actually the project settings on API. And here we are. So I got my key, which is here, the anon public key. I'm going to copy paste this key here, and then it will be good. All right, so now we are supposed to get Supabase that is ready to push and just to have some communication with our project. Once it's done, I come back to API docs and I'm going to look at authentication, and I want to connect actually to the magic link, remember. So with the magic link, I'm going to go down and I got it here, login with magic link via email. So I can use this piece of code directly where? Directly to my landing page, which is here. Because remember, down here, we've got a text field with an email. So what I'm going to do, I want to create a function that will be actually a function login that will be asynchronous, okay? And here there will be inside a try catch, and I'm going to put my code here. However, I need to import Supabase from where? I need to import Supabase, and here it's going to be Supabase this way, from my file at the root of my project. So you should remember that we have to export Supabase here, and actually we should put export default Supabase. So then I can put my Supabase, which is here. I got my login function and it's supposed to work. I'm going to console log the error here, but I'm not catching the email here. So what I would need to do, we'll create this email. So here is going to be email, set email, which would be a user state of null by default. So I need to import actually from React user state. And then I would like to have also a loading. So here I'm going to change this and put the loading, which will be here. And here it's going to be on false. And there will be also a success because I want to display a message if it worked. Okay, by default, what we're gonna do, we're gonna put set loading on true. And at the end, finally, we will put set loading on false. So here I need to put here the email. And if there is no email, well, actually, I would need to put an error. So here I'm going to put if no email, I want to alert, please enter a valid email. Yes, exactly. This loading will come from where? Well, actually, it will come from the button sign up. So I put sign up here, but I'm going to put this. Here it's going to be on click. It's going to be login. Here my Supabase key should be prefixed with next public. So I'm going to get back here and put my next public Supabase key. And here we are. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to click on sign up. I got an error. And now I'm going to try to create a new user. So I'm going to click on sign up. Nothing is happening here, but I should check my auth table. And look at this, in my host table, it is working. I'm waiting for a confirmation. So right now my URL configuration is on localhost 3000. So when I will open the email, I will get back here and be logged in Gmail. And if I click here on confirm your email, I'm supposed to be logged in, but here nothing is happening yet. We need to catch the current user. If I want to get a confirmation, I can come back to the auth table and look at this. It's okay, my user has been signed in. All right, so now we want to get the user. So if we come back to the documentation and user management, we've got user here. I can copy paste this, line that we got here. And my layout, I want to know if I'm logged in or not. So I'm going to re-import Supabase here, and I'm going to actually create a function to know if there is a user. So it's going to be called const on auth state change, whatever, is going to be async. Okay, and I'm going to do exactly like this, a try catch with a finally here, and here we are. So we don't get any loading, but we will do the loading after. Here I would have my call to Supabase, and let's console log if there is a user. Otherwise, we're going to console log if there is an error. Here we are. And finally, we will do something else after. So I got on auth state change. What I can do is to use effect. Here we are. And I'm going to call here right away on auth state change when the app is going to be rendered. Okay, but this on hot state change and this user, it's a bit dumb because I cannot distribute my user to children here. What I should create, it's a context. Back to app, and I'm going to create a new folder called context, and inside I'm going to create an index.tsx. And in here, I'm going to create the context of Supabase to distribute my user to every children, all right? So I'm going to start by creating a use client here. Here we are. And I'm going to export by default a const, and here it's going to an auth context provider that would be actually a function that will receive what? That will receive children. We're going to pass children to it. Okay, so what I want to do here is to use create context of React. So I'm going to type create context of React. Here we are. I'm going to use context also, same from React, use effect, and also use state. All right, so I got all of them. Here we are. And of course, remember, I need to use Supabase. All right, so now let's begin to build this. So I'm going to create an auth context that will be by default create context here with an empty object. Okay, here we are. And I'm going to move all my logic from here, okay, to my auth context provider with exactly the same. So my on auth state change, here we are. And I want to, at the end, return what? I want to return my auth context dot provider, so not provider but dot provider. Here we are, and I'm going to pass here the children that I'm going to receive from the layout application. Then here as a value, I'm going to pass what? I'm going to pass user. I want to pass user to all the children that I got down there. Also, what I want to do, I want to export const my use auth context. I want to make a reference to this context. Really easy to do with use context. All right, how does our auth context component is looking like? Look at this. We got the user and we got on hot state change and we pass the children and the function switch theme. And here down there, we've got the header with the switch theme function, and then we've got the user that is showing either children, either landing. And finally, our use auth context is returning to us the user and sign out. So if I go to the header now, in the header, my user is not a prop anymore. It's just coming from the on auth context. And now in the layout, it's way clearer. If you look down here, we pass to the auth context provider the function switch theme, and we pass the children here. So we retrieve the children here, and we deal actually with the authentication in here. All right, so here we can see that I got a user with the email, etc., etc. All right, so I can actually change this is logged in to user. So I'm going to have user and set user, all right? And what I'm going to do down there, I'm going to set, if there is a user, okay? If user, I'm going to set the user of user, all right? Because I already know that it's going to come from here, okay? So here we've got a user. I should put a type for this, but I'm going to do it later. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this, and instead of is logged in, I'm going to use user. What I want to do, I also want to pass the user immediately to the header. All right, on my header, what I want to do, first, I want to catch this user. So up here, I got a switch theme, which is type any. I got a user that for now, I don't want to do the model from now, so I'm going to just put any. And here we are. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just put a P, and I'm going to show here the user.email to be sure that I got my user. And here we are, we've got our user.email. So let's say that the first letter here would be the user.email. So I will grab a function for that. So const get first letter, okay? And here what the first letter would be, that would be actually user.email. But if there is no user, okay, if we don't get any user, we want to return a, okay? Okay, so we've got this. So user.email, and I want to have this, so I'm going to return user.email, and here it's supposed to be a string, of course. So I got my first letter, and I want to call this get first letter here. So we've got a C. I want to capitalize this. And here we are. I got my letter capitalized. I'm going to get back. So I'm going to close this. And here we are. We got a C up here. So I can remove this email that I got there. If I don't get a user, I want to hide all of this. So I can put that inside a grid. Okay, it would be better. And I would put all of this, which is here, inside my new grid again. And here we are. So we've got what we need. Now I need to push also the user here. Two possibilities for that. We could make inherit our user from components to components, or I can just grab the same thing here, get my user and put it into my user header. So I'm going to open my user header that I get here, which is totally empty right now and with the same avatar. So here it's supposed to be exactly the same. We're supposed to get this function. So it's really dumb because we already put this function into the header. So instead of having this function get first letter, what I can do is just to create an avatar component and just push the user into it. Okay, so let's do this. I got an avatar component with the user that is doing the same thing. So I can replace actually the components that are existing here, the avatar that I got here, and also the avatar that I got in the other header. So right now what's happening is that I'm going to close all of this. I'm going to open, we've got the landing, and if we are logged in, we arrive directly on the application. So now that we are logged in, we want to create a table event to store all the events that we're gonna have here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to look at the interface event, and I'm going to get back to my Supabase instance to table, and I'm going to create a new table. So I'm going to click on new table, and what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to call this table events. I'm going to enable the row level security. With the ID, what I'm going to choose is UUID, and I'm going to generate a v4. They're going to be created at, actually, that is going to be a timestamp. Remember, we've got also an updated at, and it's going to be a timestamp also that we are going to put at now by default, and later we're gonna update it. Then we've got a user ID, which is supposed to be here a UUID, okay? So here I got a UUID, and it cannot be null. So what I'm going to do, actually, it's going that I'm going to say it's not going to be nullable. Then I'm going to have another key, which will be the date, and here actually it's going to be the date. We can put as a date a timestamp, all right? Then I'm going to have a duration, which will be a number. So I'm going to look for a number. I can put numeric or float. Let's say a numeric. Here we are. I'm going to add another column that will be a location, all right? And in here, I'm going to put a numeric element also. And here it's going to be an array, okay? So basically, we're going to have an array of numbers. And the numbers will be actually the index of every element in the array. It will be better for me to store numbers than strings like this. For symptoms and medication is going to be exactly the same. So I'm going to put a numeric that I will have down there. So where is it? Here we are. And it's going to be, of course, an array. It can be null. Okay, so I will not enable real time. Medication and medication, it will be the same. I'm going to use a numeric, and it will be an array also. Count will be the number that will determine the pain. And here we are. So we've got this event here. So ID will be for the event itself. Created, updated at will be date, like with date. User ID will be the ID of the current user. So we know how to get the current user. When we go to our context in here, we see that we can get the user here through the hot context with the value here. So we will get the user.id. Date, duration, location, etc., etc. It will be there. So I'm going to click on save, and what's going to happen is that Supabase is going to create for me the table events, and in this table I will get this model, and I will be able later to push my events to this table. But before, what I need to do is to work on the row level security policies. So I'm going to add a new security policy. So we got enable read access to everyone. I'm not agree with that. I want to use the template and I want to say, hey, it's going to be only authenticated people that will be able to use actually to read the events. So why I'm not doing here like auth.uid is equal to user ID. If I want to relay this event only to the person who created it, I should do that. Because later I will maybe share those calendars to make data reports. So I will let this for now. Let's say that for authenticated only, so only people who will be authenticated, I will say save policy. And here we are. Now let's add a new policy, and now we're gonna say the same for insert. Okay, so I'm going to click on this and I'm going to save the policy. And here we are. That's a start. Now what I can do is to get back to the doc, and here, as you see, I got documentation that has been created automatically for me. So I'm going to click on events, and if I zoom out, here we can see that I got some code that I can use. So I can read my events by doing this. We're going to do it after, but I can insert an event. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get back to my form. Okay, so I'm going to close all of this. I'm going to get back to my form, and I'm going to import here on the top. I'm going to import Supabase. Here we are. So I got my Supabase client, and what I want to do, it's exactly here. Okay, when I save my event, here it's going to be an asynchronous function, and I got a set state. I want to send what? I want to send my current event, and my current event is where it's here, up here. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to say, hey, I want to insert my event. So from event, I want to have all of this. Okay, so if there is data in return, okay, I want to just console log. Actually, don't want to console log. I want to set the events with the previous event, and we should be good to start. Okay, so it's supposed to load, and then we will have this. If there is an error, we will console log the error. So I will get back to my events that are here. I want to know exactly if I got the user ID that is put here, and we don't get it. So I need to add it and put it to undefined by default. And here, what I want to do, I want to use the context because I want to catch the user ID. So I'm going to say, hey, const user is equal from use auth context. Here we are. And what I want to do by default, I want to set my state with state is going to be okay. You must provide a date if there is no date. And what I want to do is to set the prevent event. And as a user ID, I just want to put the user.uid or ID. Let me check this. All right. When I save here, we can see that we set the user ID that we got in here. So we set the event first, and then we can call Supabase, and we will do the rest. We have our function, we set the error, we set the loading. If there is an error here, we see that we've got a message. Otherwise, we set the event with the user ID. We send the events to the table events. Then if we got data in return, we save the data locally. And finally, we set to false. Let's try. I'm going to get back here. I'm going to add a new date. Here we are. Let's say this. I'm going to put some elements in here. Here we are. Here we go. And let's click on save. And look at this, here we are, we've got our event that has been saved with the array just in here. And what we've got is the duration, the location, etc., etc. We've got the user ID that we can link to the current ID also. Now let's get back to the application and fetch this data. So let's get back to the app. I'm going to close all of this, and actually I'm going to get back to the form. And here I can see that I got events coming from the page. So I'm going to get back to the page. And on the page here, we've got the events. So here we should have a function that is going to fetch the events. So I'm going to get back to the documentation. I should find this in events. And if I get down, actually, I have read rows, and look at this. So I have this function read rows that I can just insert in here. And this function can be fetch events. Okay, so I got this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Supabase again. And it's really simple to do. And I can have a function. So of course I didn't show you, but you could have an asynchronous function that would be here, that would be get data and just return actually the data here if you are working on the server side. Me, I'm just doing this way because it's faster for me. So it's going to be fetch events, all right? And here it's going to be an asynchronous function like always. And here we are, we've got a function fetch event that is setting the loading to true, and we fetch the event with the current user ID. So here we got a filter that helps us to get the user ID with the current user ID. And we get back, look at this. Here we are, we've got the first event. So what we can do basically, we can just set the events with events here. So I'm going to say if events, I'm going to set events, the what of what? Of events. But here the problems, it's that we already got an event up here. So here what I should do is just to use the data that we've got. So I'm going to put set events from the data. And when we get back, look, we've got our previous event done. Let's add now a latest button, which will be sign out. So back in my app here, we can see that I got all of this. What I should do at first is to say, hey, we need to have a user if I want to show all of this, all right? Okay, that's good. So now I'm going to add my button here, and this button will be sign out. Remember, in the context, I got sign out that is coming from user use hot context. So I'm going to get back. I'm going to use this here. Import sign out, then I create a button, and I want that when I click on button on click, I want to log out. All right, so let's try again. I'm going to put my email, godwithguillaume@gmail.com, and I'm going to click on sign up. And here I got, please check your mailbox. I made the mistake here. It's user router from Next Navigation. And here we are, I'm logged in. So now it is working very well. If I click again on sign out, it's going to be exactly not the same. I'm redirected immediately to my app. So it was a quick example to create really fast an application with Next.js and Supabase. It was really simple. We created a table, we created an authentication system. From step to step, we created an app that we can use immediately and in less than 1 hour and a half. As you saw, in a bit of time, you can create an application really fast with Next.js and Supabase. There is nothing more easier than doing this. Actually, Next.js is amazing to create front-end application, and with the combination of Supabase, it's so fast to build and put in production application. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and see you next time. Bye!